What's up, guys? Welcome back to Range Logic. Today we're going to go over how I make my rubber targets. I did a short a couple months ago and you guys seemed to like it, and you had some questions about what products I was using and how I went about the process. So here's one I just made recently. We've kind of leveled up how we're making these, and I'm going to go through all the tools and everything you guys are going to need to make your own targets, and we're going to make one here and then we're going to go ahead and test it. So let's get right into it. All right, so first thing, you're going to need to gather some supplies. So I'm using a DeWalt cordless router to make the notches in the actual target itself. And then I use a 2-foot level just so I can make straight lines with the router. I'll show you how that works. And then you'll need a razor knife and some type of a Sharpie that you can see on the rubber itself. The other item that I've already prepped out is a traditional target. Cut out on the perforated lines, remove the center completely, and then keep this as your template for any future products. So the first thing, and bear with me, it's windy out here, we're trying to get this done, but I have a silver Sharpie. It works pretty well. You can see it on the rubber here. So the first thing we're going to do, just line it up with the edges of your mat. This is a 1/2 inch rubber floor mat that I picked up from Tractor Supply. We'll go over all the pricing after we get done with building this one, and we'll break down how much it costs to actually make this. But for making 2 targets on this, it's not that bad at all. And we might actually, yeah, if we rotate this, we can actually get 3 targets out of this piece of rubber. So that's what we'll, don't leave. I don't want to lose that. All right. So first thing, we're going to trace it out. We'll see how it fits on here. So we're going to sacrifice a little bit of the bottom just so we can get 3 targets out of this one piece of rubber here. So I'm going to go ahead and trace it out, and then we'll get to cutting. So I've done the perimeter and the inner square, so I leave it all connected just so I have one piece here. But then we just take this and flip it. No, fight the wind, fight the wind. Flip it up, reline everything back up with your perimeter, so then you know your center is square. And now we're going to go ahead and mark out the inside. This wind is killing me. All right, and then, yep, that is exactly, wanted to make sure I don't do the line going across to isolate the head box. That doesn't matter to me. So I'm gonna set this in the truck so it doesn't blow away. I'll be right back, and then we'll get to cutting this out. All right, so now we got our silhouette traced out here on the rubber, and all we're gonna do now is take your level and your router. You'll adjust your router bit to just barely skim the surface of the rubber. I went in probably about 1/8 of an inch. This is 1/2 inch rubber, so I thought that gave it a nice, just enough texture to be able to differentiate what zones you're hitting on that target. I didn't want to go too deep and risk, weakening the rubber, and then it starts cracking and falling over. So we're gonna go ahead and get this one adjusted, and then we'll get some up close shots so you guys can see that cutting process. All right, so we got it all gouged out for the center. So this is our different zones. So now we're gonna take a razor knife and we're actually gonna cut on the outermost line. And don't forget, always wear safety glasses when you're using that router. And if you don't believe me, there is black dust all over these glasses. So you will get that stuff back up in your face a little bit. And you don't want a piece of rubber flying into your eye at 200 miles an hour. So remember, you're gonna need to keep your eyeballs so you can shoot these targets later on. So let's go ahead and start cutting this. All I use is just a fresh blade on a razor knife, give it a good score a few times, and then it'll start to open up, and then you can kind of separate it from there. Definitely ideal to do this on, a wood surface or something that you don't mind your blade hitting, because it is going to pass through and hit whatever you're on top of. So best not to do it on concrete. Now, if you had a router that was probably strong enough, you could probably just router this out. I attempted to do that originally, but I just honestly felt like it took longer, made a much larger mess, and I didn't really think it was kind of worth it. So I just went with the razor knife, but you guys can do whatever you like. And if you don't have a router, you can still make the notches on your target with the razor knife. I've done that before. That was the first target I made. I just came in on an angle, did one gouge, came from the other side, and then peeled the strip out, and that's what made the different zones there. So lots of different ways you can do this. You don't have to have any power tools to do them. It just happens to make it a little bit easier. There we go, first piece out. The important part is following your same line every time. Sometimes it's tricky. If you're going too fast, you'll end up putting in a second line there, and it can make it a little bit of a challenge, but no worries. These don't have to be perfect. They are just shooting targets. And you might be wondering why I didn't do this first and then gouge it out. If you guys saw, I was kind of struggling with getting this flat because the bolts on this table here, with using the larger piece of rubber when I was doing the gouging, but the extra rubber adds the weight. So when you're moving that router, it's less likely to kind of shift on you. So I find it a little bit easier to leave the excess rubber attached and then separate it at the end. Then when you get towards the end, if you kind of prop it up, it'll let you make it easier to get that blade all the way down there. Kind of start popping it up and opening up the lines there a little bit. There we go. we go. Big piece out. All right, and there we go. We got the whole thing cut out. Now all that's left is paint it, hang it, and shoot it. Let's go. All right, guys, while we're waiting for that target to dry, we're gonna go ahead and shoot this one that I made up the other day. All this paint on here is dry. We're gonna start with 22 long rifle, then go to 9mm, and then 5.56, and we'll see how this target fares. So I'm gonna set you guys up right here so you can watch the target, and then we'll go from there with it. So before we go over that target that we just shot, I just wanted to talk about the rubber targets in general. So compared to steel, rubber target is going to be a lot safer to shoot at a close range, which is what you want if you're practicing a concealed carry draw. If you're doing anything like that, you're going to have to be up close. And paper's cool and all, but you got to keep restapling that paper. The beauty with the rubber, hit it with some spray paint, covers up the targets. It's self-healing, and you can continue to shoot. I suspect that these targets are going to last, I mean, quite a while. If I could get like a season, like 1 year or one summer at least out of them, I would consider that a win, especially for all of the up close practice or any type of USPSA practice. I think this is a lot nicer than having to constantly go up and put the little stickers over your hits. This, hit it with some spray paint, move on, you're on to the next thing. So keep this in mind. It's not for everybody. If you don't really have your own property or a range that allows you to set up your own targets, this isn't going to pertain to you, so to speak. But it is a really cool idea. Once you shoot, hit it with the paint, and they're gone. So I'm going to go ahead and run through some pistol drills from concealment, just drawing and shooting, so you guys can kind of see what that looks like. But let's check out these targets that we just shot with the 22, the 9, and the 5.56 and see what that looks like. All right, guys, so here on the target, this was our 22 long rifle. And then here was the 9. And then this was the 5.56. So we'll go ahead and look at the back. So our 22 long rifle was here. This was our 9. And then this was the 5.56. So the 9 and the 22 long rifle actually had the largest blowout, you could say. 22 long rifle actually took a little bit of a chunk. The 223 or 5.56 kind of pierced through kind of like butter, just kind of closed up behind itself. The 9, I mean, it didn't do too bad. So We're going to continue testing with these, shooting them a bunch with a bunch of different calibers. Next ones we're going to try is 45 Colt, 44 mag, and 45 auto, and we'll see how those targets fare. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, be sure to hit the subscribe button, like and share this video, turn the bell on so you don't miss any future videos, and don't forget, have a nice day.